Welcome to the Opal Foundation series. In this 4-chapter episode, Orchestrating Exceptional Guest Experiences, we welcome Cate Abbott, Director of Social at Target.
Cate, I love that idea that you were talking about that art and the gut. You know, that's so critical for really everybody, right? It's the balance. Let's talk about your team. You mentioned that a second ago in our introduction. Let's talk about leading the winning team. You know, how does the balance affect your leadership style, and how do you take your vision and translate it to the shared vision of your team?
Right. I hope I set a clear vision and strategy for the team, but I really try not to prescribe exactly how we'll get there. I don't think anyone has ever accused me of being a micromanager, and maybe that's good or bad, I don't know. But as long as we nail the landing at the right time, I really do leave how we get there largely in the hands of my team. That said, I do try to stay connected to them and provide counsel, my point of view, and remove barriers along the way. And I also hire people who are way smarter and cooler than I am to advance this vision and strategy. And I mean, I will have to say, that is truly key. I have people on my team who educate me every day and teach me something every day that I didn't know was out in the world. So, anything really cool coming out of Target Socials is less about my vision and more about how incredibly plugged in my team is to culture.
Well, that's a great strategy from the sense that you can truly scale when everyone's rowing together. If it's just you and you got a bunch of passengers, you can't grow that way. So that makes a lot of sense. How do you define success?
Well, I think personally for me, which has been a journey for me, and at this stage of my career, what is going to be my legacy and what will make me look back on a career and say, I made an impact, is really having influence and impact and meaningful outcomes for stakeholders, partners, and my team over time. So I think for partners and stakeholders, it really means making sure we're aligned at the very beginning of any project we're working on together. We know what we're setting out to do. That seems like, oh, no kidding, but you would be really surprised at the amount of times I've found myself in the middle of a project where we realize we've got different ideas about what we're trying to achieve. Right. And I think to me, it's just it's not about one project. It's the impact that you make over time and the consistency that you bring to your relationships and partnerships with people.
Yeah. And consistency, like you said, you have to do it all the way through. I mean, so I love that. But now what about now with your team? Like, that was the stakeholders. How do you translate that back down to your team?
Well, it sort of flips a little bit for my team. I think it starts with truly understanding their needs and aspirations and making time a couple of times a year at least to talk about them and not the work. I have some of the most talented, creative, problem-solving people on the planet on my team. But like me, they tend to put their work before their own personal development. So I really want them to be better at self-prioritization than I have been. And I'm willing to have really tough conversations. If someone on my team isn't tapping into their full potential, I will have the tough conversation and start helping them strike a plan to get there. It might be uncomfortable in the moment, and often is, honestly. But I think how I know it works is when I've had past employees come to me and say, I vividly remember a meeting I had with you, and you told me something I didn't want to hear, and I left really mad at you. But in hindsight, you were right, and it made me better. And that's happened to me more than once. So I do feel like that's a really important ingredient to really help develop teams, is having the tough conversations and really helping them, articulate their own vision of where they want to go.
Yeah. I mean, that's not only a compliment to you that they come back and share that and that you have that result, but it also validates your approach. I mean,
Right.
You sound like a pretty good leader.
I was like, but how long were you mad at me for? But yeah, I mean, no one likes those conversations, right? Like, it's horrible. I once had to tell, when I was in hospitality, I once had to tell a bartender he had to wear deodorant. You know, it's like there are horrible moments in leadership and management that we've all had to tackle. But I think because it's so personal to people, right? Everybody wants to be a best version of themselves. So it's finding the art of telling the truth in a way that is as least painful as possible, and in a way that sort of sets them up to see the alternative, right?
Yeah. And at the same time, though, ensuring that you don't sugarcoat it, so that you want to make sure that the message you need to deliver lands, right? Sometimes people beat around the bush and then they assume they got it, but in your situation, you're reinforcing that you've got something that needs to be communicated to your team. You've got to make sure that they're crystal clear so that the outcome is resolved.
Absolutely.
Thank you for watching this chapter of the Opal Foundation series. To view the entire episode, please visit workwithopal.com/blog.